doctor's prescription may seem mysterious to the average layman, but it's all very simple to the pharmacist. Accuracy and skill are synonymous with pharmaceutical technique.
Well, hi there, folks. Glad you could join me on another episode of Pharmacast with Pindi, your prescription for the latest info in pharmacy. On this series, we'll be tackling the evolving role of community pharmacists and the opportunity that comes with that evolution. I'm Pindi Janda, a pharmacist, an advocate, and the Director of Procurement at Imperial Distributors Canada, and I'll be your host.
Your local pharmacy offers healthcare advice from a trained professional.
In the past, there has been a disconnect between pharmacists and doctors. Think of it as roommates that share a kitchen, but spend most of their time in their own bedrooms. Who wants to go to that party? But as we make our way through a pandemic world, it's becoming evident that increased collaboration between pharmacists and doctors is paying out dividends on many levels. So how do we lean into this momentum? And what are some of the challenges we still face today?
What pharmacists fundamentally bring to the table is to be drug experts, forward, backwards, up and down.
Joining me to help answer these questions is a man who has his feet firmly planted in both worlds, Dr. Edward Fang. Ed began his career as a pharmacist and has extensive experience working in nursing homes, the Vancouver downtown eastside population, and consulting for independent pharmacies. He's also made presentations to Vancouver Coastal Health nurses and physicians regarding appropriate use of newer medications and reducing polypharmacy. Never one to be content, Ed graduated from UBC Medicine and is now a family physician resident at Surrey Memorial Hospital. I still remember the day I met Ed as a newly minted pharmaceutical rep, and I went into a pharmacy on Hastings that Ed was working and dispensing at. He was kind enough to entertain my spiel, and we've been friends and colleagues ever since. So thanks, Ed, for joining me.
Anytime.
I thought we would explore that, Ed, what it's like being now a primary care physician resident and the role of community pharmacy.
It's quite different. I've had my pharmacy and medical training both at UBC, and that gives me a very unique perspective. We always talk about change and we always talk about how the role of pharmacies have evolved, but I always believe that pharmacists still have to be at its very core drug experts. We have this new inventive way to do patient education, but that's not necessarily what we from the physician side look for in pharmacy, especially now with the rise of free apps.
Looks like you have a problem. Best to visit your pharmacist.
I find that a lot of physicians and pharmacists are reading the same medical resources.
But I wanted to touch on what you as a primary care physician are looking for from a pharmacist.
We want the pharmacist's expertise, not just to regurgitate what you can find online. These pharmacists don't know I have a UBC pharmacy background, but it is frustrating even for myself and my co-residents. They ask the pharmacist something and they just regurgitate what you can find online. And that's not very helpful. You're asking them to be a professional.
So what I'm hearing, Ed, is that you would like to hear pharmacists get back to their core and the foundation of being medical experts. And when you're engaging with a physician like yourself,
Correct.
Is show that expertise.
Yeah. If I say, I'm pretty sure metformin is going to cause diarrhea, for example, and I ask a pharmacist, should I still prescribe it? I don't need the repeat of the manufacturer's label. There's a lot of, I'm really worried about QTC prolongation or this drug interaction that shows up on LexiComp or Pharmacare. And then they say, oh, but I spoke with a doctor, so it's fine. Well, physicians want that too. They're like, well, I prescribed these 3 psychiatric medications. I talked to a clinical pharmacist and they said it's fine. So I have to write, discussed with Pindi, registered pharmacist, that these were fine. But I don't see pharmacists putting their licenses out there and saying, no, I stand by my judgment.
I love that. Take ownership as a pharmacist. Pharmacists will document, spoke to doctor, it's fine to take this, et cetera, et cetera. On the other side, why not have the physician have that faith in you as a community pharmacist is what you're saying, that you are backing up what you said with evidence and confidence.
This is what allied healthcare is that you put your license where your mouth is. And I don't see that being done. I see a lot of, well, we'll just do whatever the doctor says. The doctor doesn't need you to do whatever he or she wants. They need you for shared decision making. When clobazam was short, or spironolactone, or midodrine, or phenytoin, drugs that don't really have an equivalent class, a lot of doctors called their pharmacies like,
we don't have this. What do you recommend?
and a lot of them responded by saying, well, I don't know. There is no interchange within the drug classes to phenytoin. And then they're like, whatever you want, doc. Well, I need your medical expertise. There's no follow-up questions. Even neurologists are like, I want to engage, because it's not just as simple as starting another epileptic drug. It's what else do I have to look for, right? Like, obviously, we have to start them on something.
Right.
What do you recommend? Especially when they were stabilized on phenytoin, and a lot of them just shut down. When those moments, those small little kind of opportunities get wasted, it's really hard to earn back that trust, because when you need the pharmacist and they said, well, I don't know what to do, it's whatever you want, then why do they ever need to call you again? And then I see this erosion of this professional relationship where it just becomes prescription refill, because otherwise, from the doctor's eyes, every time a community pharmacist calls you, it's always a problem. It's always like, they're out of refills, we don't have this drug, there's a documentation error, and nobody actually looks forward to collaborating with the community pharmacist, because it's all just technicalities. And that's like a failing on both sides, really, to not utilize one another properly. But trying to bridge that divide is very difficult, especially alone.
Yes, but hey, all change starts with one person, right?
It does, yeah.
The pharmacist, in common with all professionals, has a responsibility for ethical and conscientious service to the community.
We should never lose sight that we've spent at least 4 years studying medications, while physicians have only spent a fraction of that time. This creates a substantive difference in how we think about these medications. Open lines of communication are essential for better patient care. Ed has a suggestion on how to bridge that gap.
I think you should actually sit down and meet face to face. How many people have only talked to each other through the phone and never sat down and said, hey, let's grab a coffee? Or when I did it, I just booked a visit next door. And that's 10, 15 minutes of uninterrupted time that I can talk with them, right? Like, trying to squeeze in a coffee date or a lunch, probably not going to happen in a doctor's office. You book an appointment, you'll have 10 minutes with them. That's your elevator pitch.
I love it. And yes, elevator pitch. I think you've summed it up perfectly, Ed, because pharmacists have to learn how to be confident in themselves and then know how to really advocate for ourselves as well. And to build that trust, you have to start with small steps. I love the idea of what you said. Book an appointment. Go see them for 5-10 minutes and say, hey, I'm a real person.
Pharmacists need care too, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
You know, Ed, I really hope you'll come back and visit me again on the Pharmacast.
Anytime.
I hope you all enjoyed today's show. I like to end each episode with a pearl of wisdom, something I call Pindy's Practice Pearl. Today's Pindy's Practice Pearl: you have the knowledge and expertise within you. Doctors need you, so don't be shy. Step up and shine. Pharmacast with Pindy is produced by Everything Podcasts. Subscribe anywhere you discover your favorite podcasts. Thank you.